Somebody try to kidnap you, fight for your life. Don't go.
Don't
Don't
not
go
go.
with him.
Do not get
go
in the
because
car.
you're going to die. Okay, I know
She
that's
ain't
not
lying.
funny,
She
but
ain't
fight
lying.
for your life.
Yeah, fight
that's
for
all I
your
gotta
life.
say.
You think you're gonna be kind and you're gonna get in the car and you're gonna get serial killed.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Falling Forward with the Ross Sisters. I'm Carmen. This is my sis, Christine.
Hello, y'all. We back up in the Falling Forward spot to
Up in
talk
the
about
505.
something.
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
Well, we're gonna talk about something fun together today. Well, at least at the beginning, because we had a conversation before pre-show, and we just want to know your thoughts here. I think that there are aliens. What do you think?
You know, before I would say I was a huge naysayer. I was like, please, it ain't nobody out there. But then when I started watching Paranormal Activity, I think that's what it's called, that I've seen some videos. I'm like, nah, you can't really fake that.
Well, I mean, you can fake anything. Nowadays, they got AI. They can
That's
make you
true.
talk and look like you're talking. You can say something.
It's true. But I feel like even like because one thing I like about this show is people sending in their own videos.
Mm-hmm.
So they send in their own videos and it's just through a Gmail account. So some of the people you're like, unless you're just trying to waste your money, you didn't go get no professional movie editor.
Yeah, and why would you spend what people do?
That.
People do spend money to alter things. They
Yeah.
really do. But a lot
But
of
it
people
should be
don't.
worth it though. If
Yeah.
you're gonna do it, it needs to be worth it.
Yeah.
Like it's like I should be getting $1 million if I'm about to fake something.
Right.
Like that.
But you know, me personally, I've never seen a UFO. Or I've never seen an alien. But I just know that in this world, in this deep world, this deep space, we cannot be alone. We cannot, all this space, they're talking about, we got universes over here, we got another moons, another suns, all that stuff, and we're the only people here. Get out of here.
When you think about it realistically, but at the end of the day, as long as y'all ain't come get me, I'm good.
Right. Don't be
Like,
probing
yeah,
me.
Exactly.
Yep,
like
I'm good.
I like my body parts. Well, you can do a little
Liposuction?
interior
Yeah,
in
if
the
you wanna
legs
do that,
if you want to probe that.
I got a little
You
belly
can
that you
you can
remove
have that. I got several things that you can have.
Yes.
And several things that you can't have.
Right, because I fight back.
Exactly.
I don't care what you look like. But if there was aliens, I don't think that they look crazy.
I
think
don't
they
think
look
so
like,
either.
I think that they probably look just like us, and you're probably an alien. For all I know, because she looked funny when she was born, I tell you that. Yeah.
Not funnier than her. But I think it comes down to the fact that you have to, you really, as you kind of broaden your thought processes, it really doesn't make sense. And like the Bigfoot videos, at some point, everybody around the world can't be faking a Bigfoot video. Like, and you can, but I feel like there are plenty of animals that we have never heard of.
Yeah, especially in the ocean, because the ocean's deep, very deep. But
But
there's some.
But there's some forest areas too that are not full. There's like peoples around, that live, indigenous people living in these forest
Yeah, but
areas
we don't know
that
what's in
nobody
there.
has ever like. They have caught a glimpse of them, like maybe on some infrared thing when they're flying around just to see what's out there. But there are other places that we haven't even met certain groups of people. So
Yes,
why are we going
you're
to
right.
neglect and as looking at that idea of survival of the fittest, if I can speak, is the fact that these animals have to adapt.
Yep.
They have to adapt to their surroundings, and I feel like they can look at us as people and be like, these fools ain't safe.
But I'm telling you, if there is aliens, which I think they are, the government knows about it. They are fooling us. They always fool us. I just have a feeling that they know that somebody was probably.
They probably got one just like on the freaking Independence Day. They got one in whatever area 52,
Under the ground,
under the
something,
ground,
yeah.
whatever, in the Hoover Dam, whatever it is, over there hiding it, and just not to freak out people. But I think that's that whole idea that people feel like the unknown is scary.
Yeah, and then the unknown doesn't exist too. Just because we don't know about it does not mean it's not there.
No, 100%. It does not mean that none of this is here just because you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of things that we have not seen.
Yeah, like the classical thing. Have you seen $1 million in person? Of course not. But we know there's $1 million there. So
well,
those.
even basic too. Have you seen the wind?
Yeah, and we feel.
Ain't
the wind
nobody
all-
seen
yeah.
the wind, but we know it's here.
Right. We definitely know it's here. So speaking of the wind, I don't know what we can talk about the
Well,
wind.
this
so.
really, this is just our attempt
That's
to
just
transition
to
out
transition
of
out of aliens. So how we transition. So what we're going to talk about today is anxiety. I just did a reel on anxiety because anxiety is real. So Christine, have you had any incidences or incidences, I can't even talk, that you have dealt with anxiety that was crazy, that affected your life in a major way?
Like crazy? What you mean crazy?
I don't know. Have you woke up out of a deep sleep thinking about, oh, did I leave the stove on? You know,
No.
like, are you that? You know, shoot.
Shoot, I be waking out of sleep. I need to call mama.
Yeah.
That's what be happening.
Oh, so that's like you wake up in the middle of the street to call mama because you call mama in the middle of the night when you have problems.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's
But
another
yeah,
anxiety.
yeah, and it is because I think a lot of people, they don't identify what anxiety
Right.
looks like. I tell clients that I work with all the time that everybody has their cruising altitude, so to speak, of where their emotions are.
Mm-hmm.
And some people's cruising altitude for their anxiety is so consistent that for them this
It's
is just
normal.
normal.
Yeah.
It's like when you're like, well, what does the anxiety feel like? What do you mean what it feels like? Because this is what my life feels like.
Right?
Like,
and it's
I always feel
consistent,
this
so
way.
you don't know. So when you think something is normal, you're not recognizing that, hey, maybe this is not something that I have to live with.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Exactly.
because I know when I wake up in the middle of the night and start thinking, and I would stay up in the night forever, just thinking about the same thing over and over again. I did not recognize that as anxiety. I was like, oh, I got insomnia. But is insomnia anxiety? What is that?
No.
I don't know if they're associated, but I know that my insomnia, I don't even, maybe I don't even need to call it insomnia. It's just me waking up and worrying.
Yeah.
Pretty
Well,
much.
Well, and I think to that point, there are different types of things that cause insomnia, and one of them is anxiety.
Yeah.
Is in having those ruminating thoughts that you kind of just wake up in the middle of the night. I have done that. I do not regularly suffer from anxiety, but I think everyone has had some kind of glimpse in their life of anxiety. And for me personally, I freaking hate when something that needs to be fixed happens at 5:00 on a Friday.
Why?
Because usually the thing that needs to be fixed can't be fixed until
Yep,
Monday.
you have to wait till Monday. Yep, the whole weekend. So you're in torture thinking about what ifs. And that's the problem with anxiety, because if you're like me, you're thinking what ifs. So you go into your whole imaginary land like, okay, what if this happens? What if this happens? And Lord knows that none of it happens. Every time I think something bad's going to happen or this could happen or try to mitigate this risk, it's like what happens is totally out of I was not even thinking about that.
Yeah.
So I was unprepared. So there's no point of worrying and making up stuff.
Well, and I think it comes down to grounding yourself, and we've talked about this, and really seeing what is realistically going to happen.
Right, right.
Because sometimes we're like, well, blah, blah, blah will happen. And it's like, well, really? How often has blah, blah, blah happened?
Right.
And you really have to kind of psych yourself out of it. I suffer from insomnia for many years since I was in college in my 20s. And I finally went to a CBTI class, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And it changed my life. Like, I will swear by that program. It changed my life. It is super difficult, but it actually snaps your circadian rhythm back into where it needs to be very quickly if you follow the program. But one of the pieces I drug out of it, and my insomnia has never had to do with anxiety. Now, eventually, when I can't sleep,
Then you
I
get
get
anxiety about
anxious,
that.
but it's not what started. I literally be sitting up there like, let's do the colors game. How
Count
many
sheep.
things can I find that are blue?
Does counting sheep really work?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I ain't never tried it.
I tried it. I got bored with it, and I think I fell asleep. But I don't know if I think it was because of boردom, not because of the sheep. But whatever.
So maybe it
Maybe it does work.
But
So-
I feel like when I do, one of the things when I took CBTI, I was taking a sleep medication at that time, and the lady was like, "Well, let's kind of work through this. Like, why do you need to take the sleep medication? Because if I don't take it, maybe I won't sleep." Well, does it always help you sleep? No. So why are you like, again, if the worst case scenario
Is
I can't sleep, and I know this medication was hit and miss, and that's even at best it was hit and miss. Usually it was miss and hit.
Yeah.
With
yeah.
it. So that
remember.
night she told me, she was like, well, I want you, eventually we can kind of taper you off of it. I got off it that night because I was like, she got a good point.
If it don't
does
work,
not work
yeah.
every time. Why am I anxious that if I don't take this, I won't sleep when I take it and I don't sleep either? So what we doing?
And that's what the definition of insanity.
Doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
We do that with our lives a lot too. We're thinking, okay, this is gonna fix this problem, this is gonna fix this problem, and you do it and it just doesn't work out how it's planned, and you don't do it because it's not meant to be done. That's why it didn't work out.
Well, and to that point, and some of us have the anxiety to change
Something we
because
can't change.
Exactly. Well, and I think even deeper than that, you have anxiety about change because you're afraid of what the outcome is going to be because
Right.
you're used to doing it this way. You're used to going down road A. And you're like, but what if I die down road B?
But where you getting that road at?
Exactly.
How far did
Your
you get?
life is screwed up on road A.
Right, so,
and
yeah.
you could die on road A too.
Yeah, so why not try road B?
Uh-huh.
But fears can stop people. Like with me, sometimes I'm so afraid of things that I stop moving. And I can't stop moving because that's stopping your growth. And what are we here for? We're here to grow. I don't want, we talked about this before. I don't want to be the same person I was 5 years ago. I don't.
No, and I think that's straight up. It's change is always scary. I don't know anybody who does not get some sort of anxiety of for
Right.
change. But we also have to keep in mind that all anxiety is not negative. Like for instance, right now, Carmen and I are public speaking. That's one of the biggest fears in the world. For me, I get anxiety about public speaking, but it's more that I love doing it. But like I told y'all, I love to talk. So, and
Yeah.
if I got a captive audience, y'all can't even say nothing to me. Y'all can't even comment on what I do when I do it. You got to wait till we air this show.
Yeah.
But I got the floor. I can say what it is on my mind, heart, and spirit at that time. But I think a lot of people's anxiety, the anxiety that we usually get concerned about, of course, within psychotherapy, is the one that causes a disruption in your life.
Yeah, so there is some anxiety that if you have too much anxiety, there is a diagnosis for it. Like me, I have anxiety disorder, so I recognize it and I know that it's something that I have to deal with. It's something that it's not me, and I don't have to continue to live in that method. But there's like a lot of techniques, especially with therapy, that help you overcome this anxiety. So if you're dealing with something that you just can't get rid of, and these worrying thoughts and this stuff that just keeps on happening over and over again. If you can't change it, if you're thinking about it and you can't change it, you're worrying. And what's the point of that? And that's so hard to stop. It's so hard when you think and you're like, this is really important. I got this new job coming up. What if I do this? I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. And Lord knows when it comes to that job moment, you're not going to be doing that role play that you just did. But but we just need to make sure that we're not stopping.
Yeah.
Again, because we're fearing of the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, fear of the unknown, because the unknown is scary. It's very scary.
But if we stayed in that spot, and I know I said this before, you would never walk if you were continuing to be afraid of the
Right.
unknown. Most of us wouldn't be driving. And I kid you not, there are some people in this spot that they are afraid to leave the house. And it is a type of anxiety that they deal with. But for most of us, it's anxiety about those daily tasks. And I kind of even think about, when I think about anxiety, I think about this generation that came after 9/11. One of the big markers of their generation has been anxiety, because they grew up in bubble world in which, oh my goodness, we got to go through all these detectors when we go into the airport because this might happen. Now all of a sudden, I don't know how many of you guys are 30A in their late 40s or whatever, but when we grew up, nobody didn't care about our opinion. Like, and I say that because people, and I don't say it in a bad way, but I feel like sometimes within this newer generation, they're so concerned about, well, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And we've talked about this in episodes before. Sometimes your feelings need to be hurt.
Yes, definitely. To grow, sometimes you got to be uncomfortable And when you're uncomfortable, that does not mean that you're in a bad place. It's a chance to walk.
It's a chance
Instead
to
of crawl.
It's a chance to transition into something new, and I bring that piece of it up. It's like, because a lot of people, their whole thing is like, oh, I don't want to do that, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to do this, I'm uncomfortable. When my nephew was at my house, as soon as he said or did something that I knew he was uncomfortable, for the most part, I'd make him do it.
Yeah.
And I used to tell him all the time, we don't live by fear. All
Right.
of us get fears. And fears is also a type of anxiety, you guys.
Yep.
Is that I'm afraid of what is about to happen, and sometimes it's legitimate. If a serial killer chasing you down, I very well hope you're afraid, and I hope that fight or flight response kicks into your parasympathetic nervous system,
Yep.
and you break camp.
Yeah, and side note, if somebody try to kidnap you, fight for your life, don't go.
Don't
go
not go.
with them.
Do not get
go
in the
because
car.
you're going to die. Okay, I know
She
that's
ain't
not
lying.
funny,
She
but
ain't
fight for
lying.
your life.
Yeah, fight
That's
for
all I
your
gotta
life.
say.
If you think you're gonna be kind and you're gonna get in the car and you're gonna get serial killed.
Yep. Don't do it.
But I think it's hard for people to overcome anxiety, and it's an ongoing thing.
Because your brain, especially when you're used to it, your brain trains yourself to automatically do it. I would say that I've been working on this, but not being so negative. Christine can ask me, if she say, okay, what are the worst things that can happen? I can come
I
up with
can
10,
ask
15.
Carmen.
I'm a good coming up, okay, well, this can happen, this negative thing can happen, this negative thing can happen. And she knows I'm good at that. That's why at work I'm good kind of at mitigating some risk. Because I'm like, okay, now we need to stop this because this could happen out of this. And sure enough, sometimes it happens.
Yep. And with that being said, it's not bad when bad things happen.
No.
It is just a shifting point.
Right.
And we at times have to reframe our terminology to say, sometimes the things that we considered bad at that time, when we look at it down the road, it was good.
Sometimes something bad has to happen in order for you to get out of your box. Because sometimes you need that little push. Like that door's open and you don't want to go through it. Sometimes you got to get a bad situation to just push your ass through that door.
It kind of reminds me so I don't watch scary movies like that, y'all. Like back in the day, I was into it. But it's that anxiety about
Yes.
it. Now, I can watch the scary movies that's like vampires or something like that. That stuff don't bother me because it
It's
ain't
not
real.
real, yeah.
But when it's
Well,
a
it could be
serial
real. It could
killer,
be real.
yeah, if it's a serial killer running around, as soon as I get up, I'm like, let me turn all these
Right.
lights
And don't let
on.
it be based on a true story. And I really hate when it's not solved. That's why they say the unsolved mysteries got me every time. And I'm looking out the back window. Are they watching me
Is
watching
he
them?
still there?
Yeah, they see me. No, and then I'm about to get murdered. Oh,
Exactly.
heck no. So
Yeah,
I just
I'm not
decided.
going
Yeah.
down.
So that's why when I know that, some things I have to protect what I look at and what I see and what I hear, because sometimes that gets in my soul and I start thinking about it. So like, just worrying, like this whole new idea got placed in my head. This could really happen because, sometimes movies seem so real. So, and just scary.
No, I agree with that. It's like we easily fixate on something,
Yeah.
and we're like, well, what if this? What if that? Well, realistically, what if that?
Yeah. Yeah.
What if that happened?
You got to
Because-
deal with it anyway.
Yeah, because I even talked to some people at work, like, well, the worst thing they could say is no.
Right.
Like, is that really
Yep.
the worst thing in
Right.
the world? People tell me no all the time.
Yeah. But why don't we like hearing no?
I feel like, and I can't say this, but I wonder sometimes if it's a U.S. culture thing that no means bad, because no is essentially just setting a boundary, and I think
Right.
we talked about that
Yeah.
in one of the other
And I think,
episodes.
Deidre said that, I think this is a quote, only people who get mad about you setting boundaries are people who want to break them.
Exactly.
Yeah, she did say
exactly.
that.
Yeah, and I think so. People get uncomfortable with it, but it's just like it should be a part of your daily life. Like I gotta say no all the time, but I should not be saying no because I am afraid
Right.
of what is going to come next, especially if it can be an opportunity. Now, we always still have to parse this stuff out and say, if it's an opportunity to cost you $20,000 and you ain't got $20,000,
When then that's a hard no.
then that's probably a hard no.
Right.
You don't want to get yourself in serious amount of debts, things that you can't afford if you're not using discernment in the decisions that you're making.
And that's important too, because speaking of worrying, sometimes we got discernment, and that's not worrying. That's just giving you the heads up that, hey, this is a red flag. And red flags, it only becomes anxiety when you start pondering on it and staying on it and shifting on it, your mind on it and staying on it. So So just because you get a little heads up doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Maybe you should just listen to it. And I guess trusting your instinct on things too.
I think it is trusting your instincts. And I think our instincts are very important. And I think a lot of us don't trust it sometimes when we're dating. Like, I know I have several friends who have anxiety about getting in new relationships because they were divorced. But at that same time, I'll talk to them about it, and they're like, well, I'm just scared that I'm not going to pick the right person. Well, the question is, what did you learn from the person that you were with? You got to get into this self-evaluative mode at some point, but you can't be afraid to move forward. You can't be afraid to live life, because it's more than one person missing out. It's you and all the other people that you had the opportunity to meet and engage in just because you said no.
And you got to know yourself too, because when you're dating, most people just don't date one person and marry that person and stick with the person for the rest of their life. It's okay to have a failing relationship. It sucks if it's toxic. But it's okay to break up with somebody. That is part of our life experiences. So if you think that you're never going to break up with somebody fooled you.
Exactly. And even sometimes within our own marriages or long-term relationships that we might be in, I don't want to say a breaking up point, but there's a point that you don't feel the same way, as far as you don't have that same feeling like when you first met them and you're like all giddy and happy about it. You got the butterfly. At times you got to settle into life. And I don't want to say at times, all the time, you will eventually settle into life, and you have to choose that person every time. And a lot of people's anxiety will prevent them from choosing that person, or even their concerns like, well, I'm not happy. Well, your happiness is your choice.
You're right. Because we choose, and we don't realize it and we don't understand this, but we choose to feel how we feel. Now, there might be Joe that pisses you off and now you want to react in a certain way, but you don't have to. You can stop yourself. And that's a skill that I have not mastered. Right, Christine? To be honest with you, I need to learn that better.
I haven't either, though. But sometimes I'm better than sis. Only sometimes.
No, Christine's pretty good with
better
things.
than me at it. But I think there's so many varying situations in which we do experience anxiety. It could be relationships, like we talked about. It could be generalized anxiety, like you talked about, just life, like everything around us. But I think also those times should serve as a point that we stay humble regarding our situations. Like, everybody doesn't have anxiety all the time, but everyone will experience some sort of anxiety in their lives. It's not going to always be debilitating. It's not always going to be crippling. But can you get into a space in which you can understand and empathize with that person experiencing it, but also for yourself, not allowing anxiety to be your identity.
Right.
It is a part of something you have to deal with, but it is not who you are. And you can battle that just like you can battle other struggles in your life.
You do not have to worry all the time. You do not have to do that. So if you're in the stage that you feel like you have to worry and it's taking over everything and it's becoming debilitating, you're not alone, for one thing. And for two, I'm here. If you guys can leave some comments down there, we can share how to get over anxiety. I got some meditation going on sometimes. You got to do what you got to do for you. Just remember, you got to do every single thing you need to do to get yourself to where you need to be.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for Falling For It with the Ross Sisters. We see you guys next time.
Have a good one. Bye.